Welcome to the world-famous Adventurers Club of Los Angeles. I'm Lance Miller, member 1222, a member of the board of directors here. For the last 100 years, we have celebrated those who venture off the beaten path. Our members include men of iconic accomplishment off the beaten path, such as Will Rogers, the Oklahoma native who is the voice of American common sense, Jimmy Doolittle, the World War II aviation fame, Apollo astronaut, Gordon Cooper, who certainly went off the beaten path, and arguably the most accomplished adventurer of the 20th century, John Goddard. Tonight we're honored to have one of our own, Bill Altaffer, member for 15 years, and he's going to be sharing with us his recent adventures and travels in the Horn of Africa. Bill, welcome to the Adventurers Club tonight.
Thank you.
So let's get started. Actually, I'd like a little backstory on how you wound up off the beaten path, because a lot of people start in life and they never really venture off the paved path. Where did you grow up? What was your history? Just a couple minutes so we know where you came from. How did you wind up where you are today?
Well, I grew up in Los Feliz, not far from here, and I was in this room in the late 50s. I became a DMLA. This is Eastgate, it's a Masonic hall. And so I went to Marshall High, and that was a very diversified school. All the racial groups, everything. The doctors' kids became drug dealers, and drug dealers became doctors. Right up over here in Las Vegas. And it's a school that's in a lot of movies because it looks like in New England College. And so two graduates right there in the audience, my friends. And so John Goddard used to come to the auditorium, and he'd bring an ocelot puppy, cat, and he'd show kayaks down the Nile in 16-meter Bolex black and white film. And we had, this is the Ozzie and Harriet era, so we liked that. It was cool. Try doing that today, right? And so I would see him with his Explorers Club of New York and all that stuff. And then when I went to SC, he was, in 1959, a couple of years before me, he was a Sigma Chi at USC. And he would come down during Hell Week when we were going to the Hell Week Sig House on the row, and he'd climb this palm tree in the back parking lot and sit up there. You imagine 60 feet up and palm. And so part of my task during Hell Week, I was supposed to climb that tree with these ice picks. It didn't work. And I got to 10 feet, and I'm not into heights anyway. But anyway, so then after college, which was like 11 years, literally, I went to Mammoth. And I taught skiing at Big Bear, but I wanted to finally do what I really wanted to do, was just teach skiing every day. So I was up there doing that, and then I met a man who introduced me to Ron Harris, who owned Travel World in Hollywood. And he says, I came down to Hollywood, and he says, you got a passport that's valid? And I go, yeah. And because I would take off after skiing, and I'd teach in the inner city, South Central and stuff. And he says, well, do you want to go to the Orient on Monday for a month? I go, yes. So I became a tour manager for him. So I'd already been to about 80 countries with my family, but at that point, then I would do a tour, and I'd spend all the money I made on staying overseas and hitting the next contiguous countries to there until I finished all the countries in the last century. So I've been to all the countries, before 2000, and then in the 70s I joined the Travelers Century Club. At that time, they only had 180 countries. Now they call about 330 for some reason. But anyway, then I organized my own company called Expedition Photo Travel, and I've always liked to tell people where to go. So that's what I do. I tell people where to go. And how many have heard me lecture before? Okay, so this is fresh. I have to say this because we have a celebrity in the house. When I wanted to finish out my South American countries, I went to the 3 Guyanas. And so I was down there with a friend, and we went, in French Guiana, we went out to Devil's Island. So we saw the Devil's Island, which is actually run by the French Foreign Legion. I love the French Foreign Legion. I've been everywhere the French Foreign Legion. I have friends in the French Foreign Legion I correspond with. And then this gentleman that was with me was a very attractive young guy at the time, and he ends up flirting with one of the Legionnaires' wives or her girlfriends. So we had to leave the island early. So we're going back to Cayenne, and we're driving down the road in the rental car, and it's jungle. And then what keeps French Guiana alive is they set up all the satellites from there. Because it's cheaper than Cape Canaveral because it's closer to the equator. You scientists can tell me that. So anyway, I start driving down this road and I see this guard tower and I see this guy up there with an AK. And so he starts coming down to check on us. And I reach over to my friend and I say, you got a Costco card? And he goes, yeah. And so I get mine and we pull up and the gun comes in the car. And I said, we're from Costco. And he looks at the card and he turns it over and they're both the same, got our pictures on it. And I'm not lying. I said, yeah, we're members of Costco. So in case we get tortured later, and the guy, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I screw up and my honcho says, hey, you didn't let, he says, go on in. So Kevin Merrill, who can testify because he's the Costco holder, that did happen, and we gave ourselves a self-guided tour of Kourou, the space station there. Okay, so I'll start my gig on what I'm doing. Our great technician back there, and by the way, this club looks awesome. I'm very impressed, but I don't know if it's that or the ladies. I have never been in this building with women before. So I heard it's not a ladies' night, but I mean, so I don't know if it's the decorations or the beauty here. So that's a map for those of you who never took my high school geography class of where we're going. And our technician, the nice lady in the back, moved it up to the front for me because I usually have it in the middle. But if you look over there, you'll see Ethiopia, Eritrea above it. You see Somaliland. And I wasn't just dressing down for this. This is important. This T-shirt is the capital of Somaliland. This is Hargeisa. Yeah. And we're going to go there. And then Ethiopia was the purpose of the trip. And then we end up going to Somalia, which is a story in itself.
What's your time frame we're doing here?
Last August, early September.
Okay.
So we had these tickets, and they were business class. I'm old enough now to have business class, and they were discounted, which is really cool. And we kept changing the date because of the COVID, and I knew we were going to lose these tickets. And, I'm sort of in the travel business, and they have a saying, if you can afford to fly business or first and you don't, your children will. But I have small groups of people I take. So I had 3 people, and one guy, Sid, who's right now on a motorcycle in the snow in the Atlas Mountains. He's been here before. He's applied to this club. He wants to be a member, and he's great. I met him in Russia in a hotel about 6 years ago, and then all of a sudden, 3 years ago, I'm in a Starbucks in Carmel Valley, San Diego, and he recognizes me. And since then, he just travels and travels and travels with me. So he's doing this motorcycle tour through Morocco. It's really cool. But he was the heavyweight wrestling champion at San Diego State. So when we land in these countries, he's 340 pounds, 6'2" or 3. I said, Sid, you're the biggest guy in this country. You realize that, right? So that's my bodyguard. One time we're down in Mexico City, and I go to bed at 9 o'clock. He goes out. Because he gets 2 trips in one. And I said, Sid, you're going out alone. This is Mexico City. And he says, I know, but as long as they don't have a gun, I'll be okay. So he's going to be a future member here, along with Kevin, too. So anyway, I've been to Ethiopia since the 60s, and I was actually there. I think I have a half-assed picture here on my slideshow because I didn't print it. I was leading a tour in about 71, and I was staying at the Hilton Hotel, and I was waiting to get on the bus with my tour group, and all of a sudden the police start moving around with guns and stuff, and all of a sudden this red Mercedes comes by, and it's Haile Selassie, and I got a picture of him waving at me. 2 years later he was killed, but and then I keep this picture on my phone because if you have Rastafarian friends, they go nuts because he's their god. The Rastafarians, and he was, related to Solomon and Bathsheba. So when you get to Ethiopia, the only country that was not colonized in all 56 or so countries of Africa, it's up at 6,000 feet. It's cool, And Addis Ababa means new flower, and our controller's looking for this sign. This is the sign to move the slide. Sorry.
I'll probably put her to sleep in the back.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Okay, slide. So we have to do it by hand signs. So anyway, it's not changing. What am I going to do?
Phoebe, can you move our slides?
They're working on it.
Okay.
Oh, it's a technical problem. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, I'll stretch it out. So anyway, we arrive in Addis, and we immediately go to the south, and we couldn't go to the stone churches. The main reason to go to Ethiopia is to go see Lalibela, Gondar, and Axum. And those stone churches, especially Lalibela, where it goes down in the ground. They built the church down in the stone. And we couldn't go there because of Tigray in the north was fighting in that area. This is my guide, Mickey, and speaks a lot of languages. Good friend of mine on my email and stuff, Facebook type thing. And he was with us most of the trip. And we went to the Omo Valley at first. And this tribe here puts those plates in their lip. There you go. They're the Mercy tribe. Pierre isn't here because he's probably lived with these people, you know. When you say tribal, he knows everything about that. And this is their, and in the Omo Valley, you know, every tribe is different. Besides different languages, clothes, abodes, food, traits, anything about them, they're all totally different. So this is the Mercy tribe. We hit about...
Let me ask you a
Yes,
question,
sir.
Bill. When you're going in with a tribe like this, how's your reception with them and taking photos of them and whatnot? Are they receptive to that, or is it something you need someone to explain? You got to pay them? How's it work?
Yeah, well, the way it really works is that all travel agencies, for the most part, use a local travel agent. And that local travel agent pays these people. So they know we're coming. Maybe they put on some ceremonial dance and stuff. So different than showing up by yourself. Another gentleman I brought to the club who's just unbelievable adventurer like John, he's a modern John Goddard, is Matt Allison. How many remember Matt Allison's presentation here? Dynamite photographer, and he goes and he lives with the cobras. He tracks them at night. He goes into Irian Jaya and goes up 60 feet in the trees. And so he wouldn't do something like that. I'm more of a tourist. So I was thinking about, what am I really? I'm a extreme tourist, but I'm not a John Goddard or a Matt Allison. So he wouldn't pull this. He would walk to see these people, whereas I pull up in a Jeep, you know. And so that's the Mercy tribe there. And they're the only ones that do this ear and lip. And of course, naturally, the bigger the lip, the more attractive the lady is for marriage. That's really the point of it. Oh, that proves I'm a real, there's my company, Expedition Photo Travel, with 3 people. This got me banned from Facebook a second time. And if you notice, it's on, I sent it in for this presentation. I thought these kids were great. For sexual content, this is the second time they banned me for 3 days. Those who know. Isn't that sick? Anyway, these kids come out of the road. I thought they were great. It's a great photograph, personally. But whatever logarithm or whatever chose there was. So here we are. What are we doing? Washing a bus there? Yeah. And that's a termite mound. So we're driving in the Omo Valley area. Then we have to cross this river to go over to see the Mercy tribe. And they are living in these kind of accommodations. That's where they keep all their food, in that particular hut. And you can see there's a total different look. But these people had not seen anybody because of the COVID for about 3 years. So we never ran into any tourists anywhere, which is awesome. And you'll see a lot of them have guns, AKs and stuff like that. And you know, each tribe has that. These people used to always fight together. They're not through fighting with each other, really.
Just a question, when you're,
Yes.
when you're doing this, are you coming in and out of town, or is this like a long tour and you're staying along the way? What's your,
Well, there's a program every day, and this is about a 1 month trip. Most of my trips are about 3 weeks to 1 month, because it's not really worth going if you're going to recover from jet lag. So at least 3 weeks is the way I see it. And
so like how far out of the civilized cities are the villages you're visiting?
it really depends. This was a flight from Addis, about an hour to the Omo Valley, and then from there, an hour or two in the four-wheel drive to get to each village.
Okay.
And then you're back in a 3, 4, 5-star accommodation, maybe no star. It depends on what's available, you know. Technically, we don't do, 5-star hotels and stuff. We try to do like 3 and 4, because you meet the people more than you would in a brand name hotel, Hilton, Hyatt, or whatever like that. This is the Omo River, and one of our gentlemen here has been up and down the Omo. Any comments? Same color? Pardon me?
It's a big river.
How long was it that you did that?
It was about 505 miles.
Wow. And you used what kind of vehicle?
We salmon river rafts that we ran in the Grand Canyon. And the highest water I ever ran in the Grand Canyon was 65,000 cubic feet per second. The Omo was a 500,000 cubic feet per second when we ran.
Really? So this has rapids and stuff. That's something I didn't see. We just crossed the Omo to get to that village.
Yeah, we went through the Mercy. There were about 8 or 9 different tribes. And like you said, each one spoke a different dialect.
Right.
And they were at war with each other. Meaning the young man, to become a man, had to go kill a member of a neighboring tribe, and they'd get cicatrices in their arms.
Just as a reminder, we're doing a Q&A session afterwards.
Sure.
And you need to have a mic if you're going to talk in the audience, because otherwise nothing can hear you.
There was also, when we got to our first accommodation going south, the guide, Mickey there, asked if any of us wanted to go see cow jumping. And the Ari tribe does it, so naturally Sid wanted to do it. And at breakfast the next day, he just got back too. They walked for 20 miles. They got to this village, and they had to stand for about 3 hours. And this young man jumped from 3 cows on the back and back to 3. And if you made it, then you were eligible to have your first wife. And so there was no water. They ran out of water. They were going through rivers and stuff like that. And he got to see that. I would like to have seen that, but I was sleeping with my portable CPAP machine. I love this hat, this ornament. This is what so they come out to see us, and they're gonna, it's not extremely commercial, but they're getting paid by the local agent, who was a Russian, by the way, running the trip out of Addis. And I don't really know who these people are, because I go through a guy for this trip who lives in England, and he does exotic. He got me into Afghanistan, and I did a program here where I went from Sochi, from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, and we used, over a 3-week period, we used taxis. So we had a low profile, just the 3 of us, and it was like the Pony Express. We had 30 taxis, Dagestan, Chechnya, all these different places. It was way cool.
Just to back up a second.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this. You got your business class ticket, so you flew in. Now, all this that you're taking place, is that all coordinated in-country with an in-country travel agent?
Right,
okay.
but it's set up by my man in England.
Okay.
Who then goes to the local agent. I mean, nobody does anything like Pasadena Travel, just make that up. They don't really know who you're going to be with, except that they send the funds to Nairobi. And so when you get into that Jeep that says Abercrombie and Kent, You know how many know Abercrombie and Kent? Well, just the day before it was Travcoa, and they ripped the thing. In fact, there is no Abercrombie. It's a made-up name. I know this for a fact. I was with my family in the 60s on a Kenya safari with the Kents. They're from England. So they thought it would be classier to make up the name Abercrombie with their name, Abercrombie and Kent. And so I know travel agents or people booking with them, they call them up and they say, I'd like to book with your, because it's an exclusive, they charge more, so they just charge, or it's the same tour, same Jeep. And the people say, well, I went to school with the Abercrombies. Oh, did you now? You know, 'cause there is no Abercrombies. So that's kind of funny. So, you know, you can arrange this stuff on your own, save a lot of money, but when you come into a city, it's going to take you 2 or 3 days to figure out what agent, and you're not necessarily sure that they're on the up and up and all that kind of stuff. But I see the itinerary. I give my guy in England what I want to do, and then he puts it together. Or Mir Corporation up in Seattle, and they put these things together. We were supposed to go to the Danakil Depression, and that was, they're having war there too. How many know the Danakil Depression? Okay, it's the lowest place in Africa. It's the second hottest place in the world, or the first, right in there, and it's beautiful, you know. And we were supposed to go there. We were going to stay in open air corrals, like you'd put goats and stuff. You were going to sleep on sticks and stuff, but Tigray had the war, so we didn't get to do that. But that was on my itinerary, so we had to modify it and do the Omo Valley and the Rift Valley. So you have to, but I trust my man in because he's taken me to Dagestan and Chechnya, and he met his wife, this English guy. His wife's from Holland. She was walking from Amsterdam to Lhasa, and he met her along the way. So that's the kind of rugged guy that my buddy is. And so so when he set me up with the Ethiopia thing and the Somaliland, there was a thing we're going to see at the end here to Somalia. Okay, so Somalia is. I've been to North Korea 14 times, and I've taken my kids when they were teenagers to North Korea, and they got lost in the forest for 6 hours, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. You know, I had a few more people. I had about 8 people with me, and I wasn't worried at all, except we were holding up the group. But they were out there looking for. I knew they'd find them. It was a fault of the guide. Told them to go do this, and anyway, it's so yeah. Somalia is more dangerous than North Korea, as long as you don't steal stuff off the walls and stuff like that. But this is another village. This is the Waka village that we're looking at right there. And so these people live in more, in quotes, civilized huts. And they have these carved symbols of their ancestors, kind of like the statues in Easter Island. This guy here is, and then I have my guide, Mickey, but then I have my local guide in each village. So there's a lot of people involved in this. He's taking that rock and he's showing how if a young man can put that rock over his head, then he's eligible to get a wife too.
Now, when you're visiting these different tribes, I'm assuming that they don't put out a buffet for you and feed you the local foods, or is that part of what you
They
do?
might.
Okay.
They might. We spent some times going to villages and stuff like that. Later in Somalia, you'll see where we did that. And that's potatoes, I think, growing there. And then these people are drying grain. And yeah, we haven't gotten sick from anything.
Yeah, that would be a concern in an
Yeah.
area like that you'd wind up bringing home something you
the
didn't
local
want.
guides are pretty responsible about what we see and do. However, you can see here we got our first flat tire. We had about 6 flat tires. And the very last day with the driver, the roads got really wet, and we saw head-on crashes everywhere we went. And we almost tipped that damn thing over. The most dangerous thing that happened on the trip was this guy driving almost to the edge of the road. And yeah, driving is a problem in foreign countries. Worst drivers in the world, where do you think? Beyond a doubt, not even close. Iran. They drive with their headlights off at night. They pass on curves. Unbelievable. You know, I'll call up a travel agency and say, well, I want to book this thing there. And he's, you know, is Mahmoud there? And he goes, Mahmoud's dead. What happened? Car wreck last week. So we're now still in the Omo area. We're down in, this is a natural area here of forestry below the hotel. And we're going out to see these crocodiles. And they say they're the second largest crocodile. They're not the Nile, which is the largest, but there's an eagle. These crocodiles were like 20 feet long. They were huge, and that was fun to look at. The boat was a little tippy, but there was a family of them. There was about 20 that you saw. You don't know how many's under the water.
Was it just like a skiff or something you're on? Or, I mean,
A metal boat.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 people in it? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
if they came up and hit you with the tail, would you flip out?
I think so.
Okay.
You know, the engines are always breaking down and stuff. And now we went into the mountains, and these are the Dorsey people. And their huts look like an elephant. And as the years go on, they trim the bottom of that hut there, and it becomes lower. But 3 or 4 people live in that hut there. And they're totally organic. They're totally self-sustained up in the mountains. They raise their own food. They don't have any shortage of food. And the man standing there a minute ago is the young chief in his early 20s. His father died prematurely, and he became a king. This thing they're making from different trees and plants. They'll put in the ground for 6 months, and then it cures, and then they eat it. And then they made me king of the day. After we drink this gasoline here, then I got to, that's the young king. And then let's see. Whoops, well, you saw my picture there, right? Okay, they gave me the leopard skin. And then, you know, we go in and out of Addis, in and out. It was our hub place to go. And so now we're back. We spent 6 times at this particular hotel, which is right near the airport. Great hotel, very convenient. The Chinese, and I can say this because my wife's Chinese, everybody, they're the new ugly American. So if you were an ugly American in the 50s and everybody hated you in France, well, now it's the Chinese. And so they build stuff and then they put it in English in all these African countries after they steal all their minerals and stuff like that. And so this is at the airport, and they're making sure that you see that they built that. So we flew down, because we're going down to sea level, to the north of Ethiopia. And this part of Ethiopia is Muslim, whereas most Ethiopia is Christian or Jew. Most of the Jewish population went to Israel 15 or 20 years ago. But Coptic Christians are basically what Ethiopians are. But in the south, it's Muslim. So we went down to this, flew down there. And you do a lot of flying, no matter what kind of tour group you're with. Ethiopia is a rather large country, so you're going to end up doing some, I mean, you don't have to, but you'd be on the road a lot.
Do they have developed airports and it's
yeah.
modern from that standpoint?
Yeah, in the old days, when I went there first in the 60s leading a tour, and I went back in the 70s on my own, and they would take me out to a tree and have me stand under a tree, and then in come a propeller plane on a dirt runway. But now they have paved runways and stuff like that. What am I looking at here? Oh, I know why I took that picture. It's not a good picture. I took it for a purpose. The back of that truck. Oh, thank you. You see all those vines and stuff in the back of the truck? They ought to do that over here at the train station, because that keeps the guys from breaking in the back of the truck to steal stuff. So they put all the vines there. I mean, don't they rob trains here? I saw it in the. Yeah, they rob trains. They should put those sticks there. And so here's friendly kids, you know, and I don't know. When you've taught in Watts and you know the trips and the bloods, you don't have any problem of getting in, walking into villages and stuff like that. I would probably feel okay meeting the ISIS people. You know, I'm good with that. You know, it's part of growing up in LA in the 50s. So you're going to see this truck was blocking the road up to where the next place we're going here, and for an hour or so. So I love that. You know, it's not a big deal. If I was on a real tour, you know, the bus and all these people, where are you going to get to the hotel? You know, I say, hey, you know, just people watch. It's okay. So this next city where Harar would get you killed going through those gates 100 years ago, because this is the fourth most important Islamic city, like Mecca. I got friends going into Mecca now. You remember you get killed if you do that? And they showed me their pictures just so you can go now. But anyway, Harar used to be the fourth most holy Islamic city. Tut-tuts are from India, obviously. So we spent the night there, and now we're in a one-star hotel, but you know, that's the way it works. So the city's quite historical, and what am I looking at there? Oh, that's how they write the Koran, the thing I just showed. To keep, like you're writing a Bible, as you would write the Koran, those markings there makes the guy writing the Koran, makes it level. So it, you know, that's how that's done. So they had a problem in Harar about 100 years ago. The hyenas took over, and they were eating the people and stuff like that. So they made a deal with the hyenas that they could have the town at night, and they wouldn't come in and bother the people that lived there during the day. That's a museum. So to make a tour thing out of it, you get to go out at night if you want and see the feeding of the hyenas. So who's going to be the first to feed them? Sid, of course, you know. So I got pictures of him.
Now, just on that, they made a deal with the hyenas. I doubt that they're very easy to talk to.
Well,
but, no, so do they just feed them at night? So they're fed at night. They don't come in during the day?
What happens is at the gate, and I don't really have a good picture of it. I have it on my cell phone, which takes better pictures than my Nikon. They come to the walled gate at dark, and then the tourists they feed them and stuff like that. But then if you live in the town, at night you close up, but you leave your meat out in front of your door. Then the hyenas run around, eat all the meat, leave, and then they have a normal day without hyenas eating them. So it was a good deal for both the hyena and I don't know where those dogs would fit. But so this is just the town of Harar. Girl's Skull. Oh, that's the picture. I take a picture of my cell phone because that's Sid feeding the hyena. If you've got good eyes, whatever. That's a hyena. I mean, they're a very dangerous animal. So now we're driving from Harar down to another country, which used to be British Somalia. And then when Somalia had a revolution 20 years ago, they started their own country. It's very similar to Ukraine that way. And so those, I wasn't supposed to take this picture. It's a crummy picture because I wasn't supposed to take it. That's from the car. Those are the Somali refugee camps. That's an illegal picture. Get me in a lot of trouble. But they've been there for 20 years.
Now, you're driving along and they're telling you you're not supposed to photograph this as you go by? Is that
the driver said, no pictures here, well, you know.
And how large were these refugee camps? I mean,
20,000 probably at that one there.
And are they, like slum type camps or something?
No, the UN gives them food. They're not really well off, but they sustain themselves. And right along here, I don't think I took any pictures of it, there were young people walking to become slaves. They were in their 20s and 30s, and they were leaving Ethiopia, and they were trying to get to a seaport. at Berbera, which is a seaport of Somaliland. And I don't down dress for this. This is Hargeisa. This is the capital where we're going. There was a reason for the t-shirt. Anyway, these young people are walking. They have no passports. They're going to get to a seaport. They're going to board a ship. They'll be taken to the Persian Gulf, and then they'll work for the sultans over there because they're going to get food. They never see their families again. May never get paid, but they'll get food. Amazing. And then here's the baboons. They were everywhere. Somebody needs to do a study on the baboons that live by the roads. I've never seen this because there are thousands of them. You know, they do studies on animals, but that aren't foraging around roads, you know, like leopards and stuff. But the baboons are great.
Is there something about the road that, I mean, is there?
Oh, they know
garbage or
that somebody
trash?
might throw a banana peel out of
Okay.
the car or something, so they hang out at the roads.
I mean, it doesn't sound like it would be too much of a reliable source of food, that's all.
Yeah, well, they just whatever they can do. This place here has cave art 9,000 years old. 9,000 years old. And later you'll meet a lady on the plane to Somalia, to Mogadishu, who was really surprised that we went to this place because it's really hard to get to. And
What was the cave art? Could you actually, was it clear you could see what?
it was very dark in there, so I don't have any pictures of it, but it was animals and people and hunters. Kind of the typical stuff you'd see in the Owens Valley, you know. Then we get stuck there. Our guide wasn't supposed to go down into the roadbed there, in the riverbed, and so we were stuck there for like 4 hours. It's hotter than hell. But again, I just look for shade, and I go, well, we'll get our way out of here. And then my 300-pound Sid, he's organizing, pushing stuff.
So did you have to push yourself out to get a tow truck? What was it?
No, there's no tow. They
Okay.
can't get no cell service. And this is the Red Sea. Okay, this is Berbera. Now here's the deal. You buy a yellow car, right? And you look around, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of yellow cars, or whatever it is. We're in Berbera. You've never heard of Berbera. It's on the. When I got home after 2 months, Lindsey Graham was there, and a bunch of senators. What the hell are they doing there? Well, Somaliland knew they'd have nothing to sell. So they're going to sell the seaport to the Americans because the Chinese have their seaport next door in Djibouti. And they think, yeah, I think they'll pay for that. And so, yeah, so that's, you'll probably see it in the news now. This is downtown Berbera. More baboons. Oh, these are a little mixed up, but that's the telling you about the cave art. And in Somaliland, I only have one guy with an AK. Later, I'm going to have 16 when we get to Somalia. Yeah. And so that's my
Now,
one.
you're going to have 16 as a bodyguard? Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
8 in the front, 8 in the back, and pickup truck professional bodyguards. But that's coming up. I'm not sure I'm looking at, but stork, is that a stork?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've left Somaliland. And by the way, in Somaliland, in Hargeisa, they have a MiG sitting in the middle of the town square. And they commemorated this Russian MiG because it killed 1 million Somalis when they were trying to get their Somaliland. People were trying to get independent. They're having a war, and the Russians backed the Somalis and the British people, the Somalilanders. Anyway, so they put that MiG up because they knew it killed 1 million people.
Now, what was the religious base in Somaliland?
It's
right?
all Muslim.
Still Muslim?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's pirates and stuff. Here's Mickey again. And there's the Ethiopian colors on a boat.
Let me just ask you a question, because
Yes.
there is a lot of piracy that we hear about coming off Somalia and whatnot. When you say they're pirates and stuff, is that what you're talking about? They're actually living off of robbing ships?
No, that has stopped now. And I have a tour, I have the itinerary, if anybody, it's in my cell phone, to go to Ely. Now, we were in Berbera, to the right of Berbera, you saw the map, is Ely, E-L-Y. So my local guide says, here's the deal. Why did they do the piracy? Because you never hear this stuff at home. 10 years ago, they boarded the ship. Let's blame the Chinese. The Chinese stole all their fish, all their lobster fields and stuff, so they had no food. So the next thing they do is they, attack the ships. But they haven't done that for a while. The headquarters for it was in Ely. So they have a tour now where you can go over for 3 days and live with the pirates. And they'll show you how they boarded the ship, where they dismantled, where they did all this stuff. So yeah, they're pretty smart people. This was a high school graduation in Ethiopia, and everybody's dressed to the nines and all that, all dressed up. Friendly kids, everywhere I go, friendly kids. But when you go up to take pictures, you can't say, let's take a picture and they're all gonna look like the graduating class of 6th grade all lined. You can't do that. So you gotta feel out what you're doing if you're gonna get a good shot, because it's not gonna work. Those are fishing nets you see there, and those are marabou storks. Thank you.
Well, and I want to ask you just about that, because in my travels, I've taken pictures of Native people without permission and almost caused riots before. And that was especially in Nigeria when I was there. But what we do is we put somebody out in front like we're taking a picture of them, and it was fine, but they just didn't want you to take a picture of, it wasn't like you were taking just a picture of them, you're taking a picture of your friend, it was okay. What did you have to do when you say you couldn't just stand them up? Was there a situation you had to just capture them in a candid component, or did you have to get their permission?
It's just like the way I pack for a trip. No two things are the same.
Okay.
So, you might spend a little time with them, and what I really like to do, I went to Art Center too, besides going to SC, and to get a good facial, and I don't have good pictures anymore because it's actually an athletic sport to get, but to get both the eyes in focus, you got to get up there with your 105 and all that stuff. So you have to build, you have to give them a reason, and I don't pay them. I never pay them, but it just, I don't get hassled. Who's going to hassle an old guy, You get away with more when you're old.
That's why you have the cane.
The reason I have the cane, I went to my orthopedic surgeon yesterday, and Dr. Chow charges, and he gave me a cortisone shot for my hip, okay? All the cortisone went to my foot, so I drive home. I was going to stop to get a Jamba Juice. I couldn't get it. I stepped out of the car, and my foot collapsed. So I pulled the driveway. My wife had to pull me in. You're not going tomorrow. I'm coming here. I'm not canceling out. We canceled this thing 5 times. So, I'm coming here if I have to have a stroller. So I just brought one. It's just subsided overnight. So these guys are the fishermen, and more of the storks. And the trouble with this country, its population has grown 4 times. 4 times since I first went there and took the picture of Haile Selassie, and now. It's just too damn many people. And sometimes we'll be traveling to the next hotel, and it'll be at night. We don't like it that way, but you have to drive. And you go through these villages, and these people are selling old tires that are, they sell dirt, just to survive. Those pictures there, you saw that kid with the goofy-looking glasses. He wired that up to sell it to tourists. And so I get on this plane. Now we're getting ready to go to Somalia. Now my kids are all smarter than me because they're half Chinese, So my son, this is about a month before this trip, he goes, Dad, I looked at your itinerary, and you're going to Mogadishu. And I said, well, it's not really planned. It might not happen and stuff, but we're going to Somaliland. He goes, no, that says right here. And so you're not going. Now, I put this thing together, and I got Big Sid, and now I'm going to back out, so I have to go. So I get on the plane, and it's like a CIA plane. It's Ethiopian Airlines, which is a great airline, regardless of the Boeing accident. It really is a great airline. And so there's no markings on this thing. It's like a CIA plane. Well, the girl's sitting there next to me, and she's been living in China for 3 years. Got her degree over there. She's from Somalia. And I said, do you speak Mandarin? She goes, yeah. And I said, would you say something to my wife here? And I videoed like, oh, your husband's coming to, is so safe and I'll look after him and everything's going to be good. I said, thank you very much. Then I emailed it to my wife, you know. So anyway, keep going. So we land, oh, okay, these are a little bit backwards here. We had a little technical glitch there. Okay, so, okay, that's out of order. Not my fault, because I sent these to you.
Not to me, but you send them to the club, that's fine.
Yeah, okay, we'll blame the club. This car belonged to Haile Selassie. So we're back in Ethiopia here, you know. And, you know, but you know, to get good pictures, you can't, even if I have 3 people, how can I get a good picture of that thing without stopping, get the good lighting, everything like that? So you guys are all like that. You know, you take a picture, hit and miss. So, and this is in this hotel on a lake of Ethiopian artifacts. This is a lake shot. So we're back in Ethiopia, not my fault. And we'll get on this. That was a preview of Somalia. So nice accommodations. That hotel there was built by, maybe you guys remember, there was a runner in the Olympics who ran barefoot, got a gold medal. He owns a chain of these hotels. And he went to fight. While we were there, Tigray was making a progress against Ethiopia, and I mean against the national government. And they were only 40 miles from Addis Ababa. And I thought it was going to fall. But since then, the Ethiopians have pushed the Tigray people back, and now you can go to Lalibela and those kind of places. So things change. So that's what you do with those. Remember those combs we used to have in the Mod Squad? You make a design out of that. Yes. And so this is a national park where we just walked around in it. And we had a lady guard with an AK in case you needed something. But it was a national park. Lots of national parks in Ethiopia. This was a natural hot springs, you know, like Mammoth, Geyser, hot water. And people go there and bathe, do their laundry. And then we're going to go to Haile Selassie's house, which turned into a museum in a minute. And when I took anthropology, and John got a degree at SC in anthropology, his PhD, by the way. Anyway, there's Sid, there's big Sid. He bought that piece of junk. I don't buy anything. You know, you get to an age where you want to get rid of crap. No more stuff. I don't want it, you know. And so he bought that damn thing, and he had to carry that all the way back on the plane, you know. He collects stuff. But anyway, that's Sid. And so I always learned about Olduvai Gorge, Lewis Leakey's, you know, the whole bit. But since then, they found an artifact of the whole skeleton, and we'll see that in a minute. That's 3 million years old instead of 1 million. So it was Zinanthropus before, and now it's Lucy. And so they house her bones in Haile Selassie's mansion. These people are selling charcoal along the road. So you want to light a fire, you buy your charcoal there. And this is the kind of driving I was telling you about. Yeah, there was a ton of that. And then these poor people, that because of the war, every time the bus would go 20 miles, they had to get off, and there was another checkpoint. Yeah, we didn't have to do that so much.
Let me just ask you a question.
Yes.
In this region, I am assuming there's a lot of political corruption, but there seems to be a lot of, I mean, it's not well developed economically, or is it? Can they supply enough food for people? Is there tremendous, it seems like there's a lot of poverty. What do you see with the economic conditions that they're in?
Well, if they keep having more people, it's only going to get worse.
Right, but as it is there much of an economic base there at all, or is China looking at building plants there and they're going to start employing
They
them?
already have. Well, I mean, of course, they build plants, but they take the minerals and stuff away, or the agriculture, whatever it is. But you know, there is a middle class. You know, Addis is a modern city, and tourism, continuation of tourism will help, but COVID shut down all the tourism everywhere. And then now that the Civil War is basically over, it'll start picking up again. Here's our guide with her rifle. But it was a walking tour of the national park. Here was another forbidden picture. This tribal area, you can't photograph their camels. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble. I snuck that picture. So isn't that, but then, you know, that's the way people, that's why we travel. See all the differences, you know, of people and what they do. But you never know what's going to get. Here's a failed resort somebody tried to build. But there was a new one getting built. This is the driver that almost killed us. Nice looking guy, but he almost killed us. So you can get pictures like that because he's your driver after a while, you know. But this is an area where they're building a new luxury resort, and it's right on that river. That was our vehicle. And there were crocodiles down in that water. You couldn't see them, but there was definitely crocodiles in the water. And then it was kind of a neat place. It had natural hot springs, and that a neat swimming pool to the right, and this was kind of like their jacuzzi. And Sid got in this room, and he comes to breakfast, and he was bit by all these insects that got him that night. My room was fine. I don't know what that happened to all that was. But this little no-star place that we got that was on our list to stay, it was the only thing available. Best French toast, bar none, of any I've ever seen in the world. So you travel, you see stuff that you wouldn't believe it just pops up. So here we are at Haile Selassie. I can't really read that, but the
Institute of Ethiopian Studies.
there you go, thank you. So these are the guys, there they are, that defeated the Italians in biplanes. They're coming in to take over Ethiopia, and these guys are out there with their camels and their spears, and they defeated them. Kind of like it's going on right now, you know. They had dual sinks in his mansion. And we were talking, you know, the 50s. So that was Haile Selassie's bed. And he was considered a god, kind of like Kim Jong-un. And he had these lions at his throne, probably doped up like the Warner Brothers lions or something. And in their art in the museum there, they're very biblical. So this particular biblical painting here is St. John the Baptist getting his head chopped off. That was a head thing. So we had a restaurant next to the museum where Lucy's shown. Great food. That's Lucy right there. She's about 4'11", and 3 million years old. You know, I have a friend who's an ophthalmologist up in Mammoth and in Bishop actually. So I always take a picture of a eye clinic. And now we've flown to Mogadishu, and we're almost done here. Got about 15 slides left. So this is our hotel, the Jazeera Hotel. And they said, James told me we're going to stay in a safe house. He didn't tell me we're going to stay in a hotel. So my one lady on the trip, she stayed back in Addis, and the three of us went. But then James says there's going to be another lady joining you. So at the airport, there was this blonde American lady from South Carolina walking. I said, I know she's the one James was talking about. So we met up, and she went with us. And she told her husband, who's only a golfer, never leaves the golf course, she didn't tell him she's going to Somalia either. So I didn't feel so guilty, you know? And so Ginger's trying, that's her name, she's trying to collect all these countries, so she's going off and doing this stuff. And as long as he gets to golf. So this is from my hotel, and there's the water, 85-degree water, excellent. And of course, you can't go in it, but you know, it's a Muslim thing. There's a wall right there, okay? It's an anti-tank wall. And after, because I didn't know I was staying at the Jussera Hotel, I Googled it after I got home, and the wing that I'm staying in, all that was blown off 10 years ago. The hotel was also used as the Chinese embassy and a couple other embassies, and they blew half the hotel up. This is a lawless country, and this is dangerous. And so we had 16 guys in vehicles, you'll see in a minute, with AKs everywhere we went. There's, you haven't been to Mogadishu unless you've been to the lighthouse, because the Italians built this lighthouse and the fish market. Here's a checkpoint that got blown up. They killed 80 people 5 days after we left at this checkpoint. So it wouldn't have helped with the AKs, but when we would stop at the fish market, these guys would get out with the AKs. I mean, it was cool. I mean, how many movie stars get guys with AKs? I mean, they get bodyguards, but we got, you know. So
What does that cost to have 16?
not that bad.
No, that's okay.
It was a more expensive trip than the Ethiopian part. It was an add-on. So it was for the 3 days. I think it cost us $1,000, and that was enough. You know, so there's another checkpoint there. So the fish market and the lighthouse, those are the things to see, and then they rush you back. They always take us back a different way. We never go the same. And Sid's friend was a Delta Force guy, and he said, okay, Sid, give me your cell phone. And they were tracking us. And Sid told us that when we got back, his friend said there was chatter about Americans being there, because there is no tourists here, believe me. And
Well, no, just, they were listening on the cell phones in, what was it, Mogadishu or whatever?
I guess, however they do that
I mean, I
technology.
don't know, how does he know that there's chatter? I'm like,
I have no idea.
okay.
I have no idea.
And who was tracking the cell phones? Who was tracking on the cell phones?
Well, it was talk amongst the tribes that run the city of Mogadishu. They got a prime minister and they got a mayor, and they fight with each other, and so it's a problem. Somehow now we're back in Ethiopia, but let me see, we're almost to the end here. That's the church in Addis, more religious stuff. Oh, that's Haile Selassie's tomb. Oh, these kids are coming because it's school year is starting. They're not begging, they're just coming getting contributions for their school. Oh, there's my guys. So we had a Toyota in the front, and there were 4 guys inside with AKs and 4 guys outside with AKs. Then we had 2 cars, and then we had another copy of that. So we had 16 guys with AKs, and it's a professional bodyguard service. The beaches are there, they're beautiful, and when you went out on the boat, the AKs went with you. But then, they took us to a compound, and there were like 4 tribes of women, all dressed in different colorful outfits, singing and welcoming us to Somalia. And they had us go in to the, that's the name of the bodyguard company. They had us go in, and they fed us a great lunch and gave us all these gifts, like T-shirts that don't fit Americans, stuff like, and all kinds of stuff like that. And so we found out that the man dressed in a really cool Italian suit was the mayor. He's replacing the guy who got his head cut off 3 weeks earlier.
Wow.
We find that out later. These are the walls. We were mostly in the green zone. It's like, you know, cobble, green zone, red zone. And so that guards the airport, so that it's in the green zone. And then here's our guards again. But they got COVID masks, Kevin, so we're safe, right? Never saw anybody with masks, really. Those are about the only guys I saw. So it was a relief to travel. This is the fish market, and a lot of knives in that fish market, so we went through quickly. So it was the lighthouse, the fish market, those were the highlights. And then they take us to some stupid monument and stuff, and then they come out to me and they say, you're not leaving the country tomorrow unless you pay us $200. And I said, I'm not paying you a damn thing. I said, I'm a member of IATA. I'll close this airport. The guy goes, "Okay, I'll be right back." He comes back, he says, "Okay, how about 100? I said, "Okay, I'll do 100. Okay.
Now, what's IATA?
Oh, it's a travel agency thing that controls the air traffic, all the airports of the world, sells tickets. And so I actually have that card, but it's really, it was just a
Who
bluff.
was it that was telling you couldn't leave?
My guide.
Okay.
So the government's saying, you're not leaving, you know. I've had that shit happen before in Mongolia when it was under Russian control. This is the Italian lighthouse. So you haven't been there. Now you take that club that Michael and I belong to, what they'll do is they'll fly in to the airport, and the guide like me, the tour manager, will run in and bribe the immigration guys to stamp all their passports. Then they'll run back to the airplane, and everyone's been to Somalia, and they go back to wherever they came from. So those are the people I'm competing with when it comes to who's most traveled. Anyway, it's just the way it is. So this is a great beach, beautiful beach, great fish. Actually, this was the best food of the trip, was in the hotel there. And then Black Hawk Down is down the street right there. There's nothing commemorating where that happened, but that's where the helicopter went down. But you can see it's a beautiful water. Also, Somalia, believe it or not, has the longest coastline of Africa countries, of all the countries. But that's also including Somaliland in the north. So here's where the women were all, I have it on my cell phone, they're all dancing and they're so happy to see us. And it's in a compound. And they were so friendly. And now, this is the last picture. And so they came to us. I had 9 COVID tests on this trip. My nose is bleeding. So typical Somalia, the guide comes and he says, "Do you want the real COVID test or the phony one?" And they said, we have a saying in Africa, you either have a lot of time or you have a lot of money. So we said, we'll go the phony one. So that's a phony COVID test to get us back into Ethiopia. And then my closing comments are, we flew back to Addis Ababa, and I go into the Ethiopian Airlines business class lounge, holds 300 people. There's one guy sleeping on a couch, and when he wakes up, I said, "What's going on?" And he's a South African miner on his way to Ghana, and he lost his passport. So it's Tom Hanks' story. He's been there 3 weeks. Now, thank God he had a business class ticket because he got food, shower, place to sleep. If he was outside in coach, he's screwed. And so later I found out, 2 weeks later, they found his passport, and he went on. But that was the end there. And in the immortal words of John Goddard, to be continued.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. We're going to take just a couple minutes and ask questions. And we know everybody has their adventures, and we like to keep it to questions and not stories if we can. Let's take about 10 minutes, and David's got the mic. Raise your hand if you got a question. Michael Lawler there.
So what's the bottom line? Is it safe to travel to Mogadishu now?
No.
Under some circumstances?
No.
If
Not
you
at
got
all.
16 AK-47 guards with you, is that the only way to do it?
I would say it was if 5 days later they hadn't blown up 80 people at that checkpoint. It's just a matter of time. You don't know.
But
know?
up in the North Berber in Somaliland, that's safe?
That's safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go there.
Yeah. I mean,
So
you're-
places where they have guns everywhere, having more guns does not make you more safe.
Well, it's the bombs. And you don't know who has it.
Any other questions?
Hi, yeah, so you briefly mentioned that you did go to North Korea several times. Would you argue that North Korea is more dangerous, you know, politically while Somalia is just dangerous outright?
Yeah. If you behave, I've made 14 trips to North Korea, which you can't do anymore, the last 4 years. But you're totally safe there if you do what they say. One time I led a trip, And this guy my age, he had his Vietnam Army uniform and his jacket. And the guy says, "You can't wear that here. Take that off." I mean, how stupid is that? Now, that was a French hotel that the guy took the little poster off the wall. It looked like a placemat at a Denny's, and that got him in trouble. But he did not go to prison. The kid, the Warmberger or whatever it was, he didn't go to prison. He was under house arrest. I know that for sure. They were using him as a political. What really happened is I think he got really sick, and they don't have any kind of health care there, and then they couldn't treat him, and so they just dumped him off half brain dead. But they didn't beat him up and stuff. That's bullshit. I mean, that's from my perspective. You go there, first thing you do is you lay down flowers and you bow to Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung. If you don't, not a good idea. So if you don't want to do that, then don't go. And then when you get out of airspace, then you can badmouth them. But, and then I used to fly their airline. You have to fly their airline from Beijing, Koror Airlines. You have to go in from Beijing into Pyongyang. And so now they have a real modern airport. But every time I went back, I got screwed up connecting. So I went back on China Air. And we're at the airport, we're flying back China Air, and my guides are there, and it's raining like hell and lightning. And the guide said, "Why don't you take our airline back there? We have the bravest pilots." And I thought, oh, I don't want bravest pilots.
I think the bravest pilots can, bear the best of storms. However, you don't want to be the passenger on those storms.
For the pilots in the room, the old quote, there are old pilots and there are bold pilots.
Yes.
But there are no old, bold pilots.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, if you left your brand new Hasselblad camera anywhere, you lost it in Pyongyang, you go back and find it, no one's going to take it. No one's going to take it. So I even had a friend with me, I'm not going to mention names, who lost his passport on that trip I was telling you about. And you can always tell somebody, I do it myself, you've done it yourself, right? Because that's the main thing. Don't lose the passport. And so, when I arrive in Pyongyang, no one's going to steal anything. You can wear your good watch. You can have your passport, your money. Nobody will touch. It's kind of refreshing, and no graffiti, and no campers that I see all around the LA area. Jesus Christ, that's embarrassing.
They're also in the woods now. Recently, I took a trip to one of the Los Angeles campsites, and there's people living in the woods, whole little tents, cabins that they built their own, and just out there, rent free. So not a bad idea. I'm just saying.
Any other questions?
I'm impressed you got in to see the Mercy tribe. That's very remote.
Is it?
Very remote.
See, he knows much more about it because he spent the time. Really?
What is it like to travel in Addis now? Is it wide open to tourism?
There's no tourists. I was never a rock star. When you travel in these third world countries and stuff, you become an instant rock star. I mean, you do. It's not just because it tips, but when I'm in Mogadishu and they say, well, this guy's one of the most traveled or the most traveled, they want pictures with me. I'm a rock star. It's really cool. Nobody does that around here.
All right. Well, Bill, thank you for that incredible journey through the Horn of Africa.
I'll be like Khrushchev.
Yeah.
Clap for myself.
And that's the conclusion of our event tonight. We're here every Thursday, so join us on YouTube or stop by here at the Adventures Club. You're always welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Stay seated.
Well, stay seated.